Here as a situation, and we are confronted on a daily basis on the private sector and international organizations, is how can we still protect the privacy of the person, the freedom of expression, the right of privacy, which is a human right, and at the same time protect the world against new threats that will expand more and more. Well, obviously, the normal reaction will be to block everything, to start to make sure that nobody can use the computers without being strongly authenticated, adding into the computer technologies, then spoof the user and make sure that the user is not using that computer for hostile operation. But also, obviously, all that goes detrimentally against the privacy and the independence of the user. So there are a few ideas that are coming into the market. Is, okay, one, for instance, we should start to let the users around the world to have digital identification. WISeKey works a lot with governments. We create national ID cards. We help them to add biometric password. So the identification of the user is becoming important, because if you, as a user, you have a strong authentication and you use that authentication to penetrate into a computer on which you are not authorized, then that identification becomes obviously a way to trace you back and bring you to court to prove that you were behind that attack. But now the problem in the world is that the identification of users are in the hands of providers. So UBS holds eventually your financial ID, Amazon holds your ID for accessing and buying books, MSN for your email, and so on. So organizations owns your ID. And the drive in order to provide equity and provided that every single person has control of their ID is to give the ID back to the user. And the user with that ID being able to access all sites around the world in a way that they are not excluding, but also in a way that they are secure. And that ID brings to the user the capability of making sure that nobody is using that ID and that computer for any illegal actions. So basically what we are saying is that a digital ID belongs to the user and not to the institution ensuring that privacy. So we are reversing the logic. I, as a user, I have my ID, my digital identification. I am a trusted user. I never did any harm. I never hack anybody. I never used my ID to go to rob a bank or something like that. Therefore, I should be more trusted than somebody that has used their ID in a different way. So by using that ID, which is being trusted, you will be in a better position to do electronic transactions in a way that those transactions will allow you to protect your privacy and expression. The problem we are facing here is that the world has now 4.5 billion mobile phones, moving towards 7 million mobile phones. So we are in a situation where it's a global explosion of people, and they are now arriving to the internet age, people that we didn't know before, people that we didn't have any track record, people that they are not registered in any database. So it is obviously that this is going to be a challenge. During the next 10 years, 1 billion new people will join the net. People, as I say, that they are coming from different cultures. So how can we certify all these people? How can we ensure that these people will use their new access to technology in a way that does not detriment against national security issue? This is the challenge. It will be utopical to say that privacy, freedom of expression, and the use of the internet will not collide. Obviously, they will collide all the time. I think in the next 20 years from now on, we're going to be in a situation where those two forces are going to be opposite to them. And it is only by legislation, it is only by letting countries around the world to make sure that the privacy of the user is not being compromised, that every country, we were talking just a few minutes ago, control their national infrastructure. The internet is viewed in our days as a water supply infrastructure or an electricity supply. It is something that you want to make sure that you control at national level, that your data is stored in your country, that your biometrics, if you use biometrics for your citizens, are not going to be manipulated by another country. So those are the forces that will allow us basically to create an environment which allow suppliers, partners, enterprises, friends in your social network and clients, all of them to work harmoniously in a trusted environment on which you know at least that in that trusted environment nobody's going to use their information for cyber attacks. Just to give you a last slide, so I reduced my presentation. The cyber terrorist, basically what they're after is this. In that column here you have the cyber terrorist, and he wants to get into the e-government services. He wants to get also in the national infrastructure services, bank, health, defense, electricity, traffic, and he wants to get into the citizen services. Now the point is, accessing the government services is very difficult. Why? Because the government services are normally well protected. Accessing the national infrastructure is also difficult because it's well protected, but accessing the citizen is the easiest way to do it. If you compromise assistant security, from the assistant security, you can go and hack the rest of the thing. So just to conclude, present identification. I remember when I joined the UN, when you just cross the border here and you enter into the UN, it was so easy to enter. In our days, it looks like an airport. So that means that security has increased. That same evolution of moving from very basic security, you will see everywhere. You will see on the internet as well. The internet is still don't have doors, don't have keys. And that's why we are doing now, putting doors, locks, and keys, so you can use the internet as a way of protecting your data, accessing your services, but making sure that you're not using the internet as a weapon and reducing the risk of countries of that type of challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moreira, for your insightful presentation. I'm sure that all of us, the next time we're going to sit in front of our computer, we're going to think very, very seriously about what you have said.